For years, we have clung to the mantra of trust the process, believing that the victories and championships were soon to come for this Philadelphia 76ers team with Joel Embiid as the face of the franchise. But as things have gone south with Joel Embiid's health and with this season specifically, is it time to take a hard look in the mirror and evaluate who should really hold the keys to the franchise? I'm going to break down what brought me to recording this victory. This coming after the loss at the hand of the Detroit Pistons, one of the most embarrassing losses that we've seen all year, and that is a high bar to clear for this Sixers team. But what really brought me to what sparked me to record this video was this quote coming out from Tyrese Maxey postgame. And per Kai Carlin of Sixers Wire here, tweets out, Tyrese Maxey said he and Joel Embiid took complete blame for the poor start as leaders. 100%. Both of us. 100%. That's on us. And while I love hearing this from Tyrese Maxey, why is he the guy that is saying this? Now, to give a little bit of a peek behind the curtain here for how this works, and again, I have done these media obligations, had a year where I worked on the beat, being able to do all the press conference stuff, talk to the players, which gave me a nice peek behind the curtain here. In fairness to Joel Embiid, there's a chance that he is speaking to the media for quotes that have not broken yet. I'm recording this pretty late after the Pistons game. Did drop my immediate takeaways already. The couple other videos stocking ahead. Got a busy weekend of work and Super Bowl, all that stuff. So trying to load up, so I got some stuff stockpiled. So there is a world in which Joel Embiid has a quote, which I have not seen yet, that he is always the last guy to speak to the media. It is typically, in fairness to him, because he's going through the training routine, getting all his, whatever the trainer needs to do, doctor, all those things, that he gets iced down, rolled out, all those type of things, that he has to do all that. So maybe there's a world where Joel Embiid steps to the podium and I feel entirely different. However, I think this is a theme here. This is Tyrese Maxey being the face of the franchise in a way that the Sixers need him to, and in a way that Joel Embiid frankly should. And this is not the first time that we've heard these conversations. For a start, let's not forget just a couple months ago, after the 2-11 start, that the Philadelphia 76ers held a team meeting on Monday night where Tyrese Maxey called out Joel Embiid for always being late for everything. It was a shocking development, and the Athletic Sam Amick is now reporting that Maxey is said to have told Embiid during the exchange, quote, Joel, you know I love you, but it starts with you and your habits. And to add to that a little further, Shams Charania reports that Tyrese Maxey, who missed Monday's game due to a hamstring strain, called out Embiid's habit of not being on time for, well, anything. Quote, Maxey challenged Embiid to be on time to team activities, calling out the 2022-23 league MVP about being late, quote, for everything and how it impacts the locker room. From other players to coaching staff, sources briefs on the meeting told ESPN, Charania wrote. Embiid accepted the message sent in the meeting, sources said, but he stated that this is sometimes confused about what the 76ers are attempting to execute on the court. Well, you know what might help with that conclusion is be a little bit more available and ready to play basketball on a night-by-night basis. Now, in all seriousness there's kind of two different categories that I think this falls in. That there's obviously the best player on every team. That is the star player. There's also this face of the franchise kind of thing. And I don't think they're always connected in the way that we make it out. Now, in an ideal world, are they? Absolutely. That you have your best player who can step up, do those things. There are also variations in which the best player and leader are not the same thing. I've been pretty sympathetic to Joel Embiid, that I was acceptable with that being the case. If you want to continue to ball out the way that you do and just, that's not your thing. You're not going to be calling team huddles, calling team meetings, doing all this stuff, rallying the troops. If that's not ideal, but you can overcome that. Those are the cards you're dealt as an organization. You bring in guys like PJ Tucker, who are a little bit more in that. You can bring in a forward-facing guy. Tyrese Maxey can carry that baton to an extent. But when the production doesn't back that either, then we start to really have some problems. And that's sort of the story with Joel Embiid this season. Overall, he's averaging 24.7 points per game, 8.1 rebounds, 4.3 assists, shooting just 45.9% from the field, 32.1% from beyond the three-point arc. And while those numbers are not nearly what the sky-high standard for Joel Embiid is, the real factor that is concerning here is this was his 14th game that he's played all season. Now, from a team standpoint and from an individual standpoint, that's just not good enough. From a team standpoint here, you have to find a way to build around your stars. Not just that you're obviously a better team when Joel Embiid is on the floor. This guy has won MVP 2 years ago. He's still that level of talent, we hope. But there's also this aspect of learning how to play off each other. It is night and day difference when you watch the Sixers team when Joel Embiid's there and when he's not. I mean that stylistically, they're playing a quicker tempo without Joel, and when the Embiid is on the floor, it is more of this half-court oriented style of basketball. While you can succeed in either of those directions, you really got to hone in on what works best for you, and then that's not going to happen with this half step in, half step out. Now, To continue on a little bit here, do also want to pull up a couple quotes to Nick Nurse, who directly called out this team once again. Nick Nurse said giving up 78 points in the first half while shaking his head is, quote, inexcusable. We also saw Embiid get into a little bit spat with Kelly Oubre on the bench here. Now, I personally love that this is the case here. It's about time there is some emotion, and I would love to hear what the details or ins and out of this overall altercation is. If I see the details on that, we'll 100% jump on a video and dive into that. I hope Kelly Oubre challenged Joel Embiid, man. And I know the play that directly led up to it, it was both of their faults there. That both of those guys kind of slacked off getting back in transition. Embiid giving a half-assed effort trying to block a shot there, and Oubre should have been in better position. But he was also banking on Joel being able to clean things up because it was his job in that case. So both are in the wrong for the specific play that led up that altercation. But I would love if Joel Embiid had any sort of accusation towards Kelly Oubre about not, playing at the necessary level of effort to win. I hope Oubre went right back at him, man, because Kelly Oubre is that guy. For everything you want to say about Kelly, not a good enough shooter, there's questions, all these kind of things. The dude plays hard, man, and that's what I got a lot of respect for Kelly Oubre for. And to pull up his numbers on the year as a whole, that he's averaging, for Oubre specifically, averaging 14.3 points per game, 6.4 rebounds, 1.9 assists. Again, just 29.1% from the field overall, but he's 6'8", he's 29 years old, he's athletic, he competes, he defends his butt off on an every play possession there, and that's something that I've gained a ton of respect for him. So if there is somebody to make an example of, it is not Kelly Oubre Jr. That is a guy who exemplifies what we're speaking about as far as bringing it on a night-to-night basis. But I do think there needs to be a conversation to Joel Embiid directly here. You got to clean this act up now, or there's going to have to be some hard-hitting questions this offseason. For the Sixers, you still got Joel Embiid on the books for 4 more years after this. And to be clear, there was a quote that I don't want to slip through the cracks from Daryl Morey when he did speak to the media following the trade deadline. And what that exactly was is he was asked about his priorities at the deadline, and he said, quote, to get younger, to get more dynamic. Now, he also said the plan is both in the short and long term and spoke highly about Jared Butler's future with the team. But this is the first time we've really seen the Sixers organization begin to take some tangible steps to the post-Joel Embiid era. Now, I'm not critiquing this. In fact, I think this is probably the right direction at this stage, but it is really interesting to me that you kind of are middling these two timelines. And we sort of had this conversation when getting into the draft lottery that adding another valuable player, a core young piece, could kind of change that picture, and then you can kind of blend those sort of timelines there. You still got a lot of money committed to both Joel Embiid and Paul George, both on 4 more years of their contract, or 3 more for Paul George, 4 more for Joel Embiid, I believe. The bottom line is they're here years and beyond. So that is a thing there. But you also have this new generation of Sixers ball. You have Tyrese Maxey. You have Jared McCain, who's going to be back with a vengeance next year. You're starting to see something with Justin Edwards, who continues to start as this team gets healthier. And I don't think that is a non-story there. I'm very much anticipating he will be on a standard contract in the pretty near future there. There's other young pieces that are intriguing. I think Ricky Council has worn out his welcome a little bit, but a guy like Adem Bona is certainly showing things. Jared Butler is a guy that they seem to have legitimate interest in, and personally, I do believe in him as an NBA talent. So these are guys that you want to explore. So if this is not working, it is time to look a little bit of a different direction. I'm not saying we completely blow this up, but it does feel like it's sort of a soft switch. Rather than a lot of times with organizations, take a look at the Dallas Mavericks right now. We see what they did with Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic, 25 years old, in his prime, took a team to the NBA Finals, has more impressive team accolades than Joel has in his entire career. And what do the Mavericks say? They say who he is as a personality, his habits, his care for his body is not acceptable for our standard, and we're moving him on for somebody that is. Now, granted, I still wholeheartedly disagree with this decision from a Dallas Mavericks perspective. I still think it's insane that they made this trade, one of the worst trades in NBA history by my money's worth. But what is the message here? That organization has a standard. They believe Luka Doncic was not it, and they went to find somebody that is it. For the Sixers organization, have they ever had a standard? This has kind of all been catered to Joel Embiid, and there's a lot of stories behind the scenes that I know are coming out soon. I don't want to dive too much into some of this stuff. Like the injury side of things. I'll just say this a little more vaguely here. This is far more from the Joel Embiid directory than it is from the Sixers directory. And I think this is fairly well-known knowledge here. I'll put this out for sure. There will be like a hit piece out on Joel Embiid about all the bad things and all the nightmare that he is behind the scenes. I'm sure a lot of it is true. There will be some exemplified stuff, but there are some stories that will make their rounds out here. But for example here, the frustrations with him not being available. That is purely down to Joel Embiid. And yes, it is the doctors. Yes, there's input. Yes, there's meetings, all these things. But the bottom line, the decision for whether or not he plays on a night-to-night basis, that goes down to the big fella himself. Now, is there a world where this all works out that, preserving his body for the actual playoff run, that you can make some noise in the playoffs, you get the right matchup, that works out? Maybe, if you want to be super optimistic, put on those rose-colored glasses, squint, as Daryl Morey said, and really view them as a championship contender. But the point being here that you're really trying to thread a needle in a way that looks narrower and narrower, man. And it does feel like the eras are crossing over in a way that I did not think would happen so fast. So for the Sixers team, it's going to be a really interesting second half of the season, or I guess final stretch of the season in reality here. But it does feel like the passing of the baton internally in the Sixers organization is happening at a far quicker rate than I thought would be the case. Now, you still have the Paul George situation to deal with, that he does not look like remotely like a $50 million player, and it's unfortunate that I've been overly sympathetic with the injuries, all these type of factors, but we got to call a spade to an extent here. He attempted 10 shots in that Pistons game. $52 million, 10 shots. That is just not good enough. So a lot more questions than answers for this Sixers team, but it is starting to be the sense that I'm feeling from the Sixers organization. Is behind the scenes, internally, within the organization, however you want to put it, Tyrese Maxey grabbing that baton from Joel Embiid a little bit firmer than I've ever felt has been the deal before. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about that overall conversation there. What is the best direction for this team? Is there anything tangibly that they need to do about that? Or do you just kind of let this play itself out and see how things shake out from here? A lot more questions than answers, and that is unfortunate. That is the case at this stage of the season, but do want to hear from you guys in the comments as always. Appreciate everyone tuning in this video here. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button if you have not already. Drop a like, and I'll be back talking to you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.